So I'm going to admit something that I think is a little bit dishonest, but recently I was working on a YouTube video, and I began it by showing some examples from my sketchbooks. And the examples that I picked were the ones that looked the most realistic. I wanted to give people watching the video the sense that, hey, I actually know how to draw. And I feel like I have to establish my own bona fides before I can give people advice about drawing. I mean, who am I to say, well, here's who I am? But the reality is that those examples that I have of my ability to make accurate, almost photographic drawings, those aren't really the ones that represent who I am as an artist. But I feel obliged to show off at first. For most people, realistic art is superior somehow. Somehow it's more real, and therefore it's inherently more valuable, more proof of your art chops. Hyperrealism, it's a cool magic trick. You can see the skill instantly. It's proof of talent, of seriousness, of legitimacy. A 6-year-old couldn't do it. So I've been watching old seasons of this British TV show called Portrait Artist of the Year. It's interesting. And the thing is, my favorite artists often don't get picked as the winners. The artists who I like often draw in a kind of a distinctive but primitive way. It's wonky, it's garish, it's unique, it's personal. And I just find it so much more interesting to see somebody that makes art that only they could make. When I scroll through my Instagram feed, I'm drawn to illustrators whose work is wonky, is playful, is childlike. I collect books filled with pieces that embrace rawness and bright colors and simple tools. Art made by people who are maybe totally capable of realism, but they intentionally draw in ways that a child might, or maybe an outsider, somebody who isn't burdened by formal art training. Sometimes I'll watch a friend of mine, a fellow artist, do a drawing that turns out so simple, so misshapen, that I hold my breath and I'm waiting for them to say, ooh, yeah, that's not good. But instead, I get really excited when they step back and they say, ooh, I like that. They've set out to deliberately achieve this effect of lumpy naivete. These artists are speaking loudly about how they see the world, not how a camera sees it. So how do they measure their success? If I set out to make a drawing that looks like a photograph, well, the closer it is to the photograph, the more I've achieved my goal. But if I'm trying to make something that's lumpy and bumpy, how do I know when I've gotten there? The metrics become internal, subjective, intuitive. It's a purely, somewhat bent yardstick that I'd have to use to measure my own work. And it takes a lot of courage that I'm still developing. It also takes confidence, and that's the quality that shines through. When I visit the Metropolitan Museum in New York, I see artists dancing back and forth across this line. I stand before 17th century Northern European painters like Vermeer, who make astonishingly accurate images. But then I turn a corner and I find myself face to face with the painters from a couple of hundred years before that, or a couple of hundred years after that, who refuse to be shackled by that standard. Then everything blows up in the 1850s when cameras become widely available and artists realize there's no point in competing with technology head to head. That's when art becomes really interesting. It moves further and further away from objective reality until the photorealists rebel against abstract expressionism in the 70s, a rebellion that's short-lived because ultimately it's just not that interesting. What I love about so much contemporary art and illustration is how it feels more connected to cave paintings than it does to Vermeer or Norman Rockwell. And today, the pressure of technology on image making is more profound than ever. When you can snap an image with a phone in your pocket, or you can type a sentence into your computer and you can get back any image that you want, slick perfection, it's pretty commonplace. It's automated, it's computer generated, it's frictionless. And instead, I find myself drawn to the one thing that AI can never truly replicate: the messy, beautiful, contradictory nature of lived human experience captured through a unique hand of flesh and blood. So, painters and illustrators are drawing like children using crayons or markers, or ludicrous perspectives, or raw emotions, or clever annotations. They're making art that doesn't feel like it was created on the other side of the high gated walls of traditional galleries and art schools. No, it's art that was made by humans with all the richness of their unique sensibility, their perspective, their sense of humor. Imperfect, because we humans are. Art is a journey, and the destinations that I set for myself are a key part of being an artist. I have to ask myself essential questions. Why am I doing this? What do I want to get out of it? Do I aspire to make art on a sliding scale that ends with near photographic realism? Or are my goals much more complex, with lots of variables like truth and depth and feeling and a rich creative experience in the making? It hurts my heart when so many of the people who share their art with me tell me about its flaws. They deride themselves for not capturing perspective accurately, or likeness, or not being able to mix colors that look true. They tell me that it's easy for me because I can draw so well. What they don't realize is that I admire the energy and the innovation that I see in their work. I love the art that outsiders make. And I'm bored by the academic, by the polished, by the perfect. I want to make art that's looser and freer and unencumbered by the need to be accurate. And I want to be honest about that ambition. I'm not choosing authenticity because I can't achieve perfection. I want to play 3-chord punk rock, and not because secretly I'm afraid that I can't play a perfect Beethoven piano sonata. I'm choosing it because that raw energy speaks more truth about what it means to be human than technical perfection ever could. How about you? Let me know in the comments below.